He shook my hand, promised me the promotion, told me I'd earned it. 8 years, 60-hour weeks, no vacations, no complaints. I fixed 3 audits that could have bankrupted us, trained half the staff, cleaned up every mess they made. And 5 days before the announcement, he called me into his office, wouldn't even look me in the eye. Budget cuts, he said. I stood there, folder in hand, tie still straight, while my replacement walked past me, carrying a box, into the office I was promised. Kyle, barely 2 months in, didn't even know how to approve a vendor invoice. I packed my desk in silence. Family photos, employee of the month plaques, the leather jacket Jessica gave me last year, all in a cardboard box. I walked out to my truck, the same truck I slept in when this job nearly killed me, and I heard him laughing. Grant, telling some story about his weekend golf game, like he hadn't just ripped my life in half. I sat there, 20 minutes, staring at that building, staring at everything I gave them, and then something snapped. This wasn't just about a job or a broken promise. It was personal, and I wasn't going to let him bury me, not without a fight. If you've ever been used and thrown away, this one's for you. Hit subscribe, because quiet justice, that's still justice. My name's Matthew Carter. I'm 36, and until last week, I thought I was irreplaceable. For 8 years, I was the numbers guy at Redstone Development, a mid-sized real estate firm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We built shopping centers, corporate parks, industrial zones. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I made sure the bills were real. I wasn't flashy, didn't play golf, didn't flirt with clients. I just worked, 60 hours a week. No drama, no missed deadlines, no screw-ups. They gave me awards, little plaques that said things like Employee of the Quarter and Most Reliable Financial Analyst. Funny thing about those plaques, they never come with protection. I saved the company from 3 audits that could have bankrupted us. I rewrote their vendor approval system from scratch, trained half the accounting team myself. Sometimes I knew their numbers better than they did, but I didn't do it for praise or power. I did it because I believed in building something real, something solid. Grant, the CEO, used to say I was the backbone of the company, the guy who kept the lights on, and for a while, I believed him. I thought loyalty mattered, that if I kept my head down, did my job, and didn't ask for too much, I'd be taken care of. I was wrong. If you've ever believed hard work would protect you and found out the hard way it doesn't, you're not alone. I wasn't chasing titles. I wasn't the kind of guy who cared about corner offices or nameplates, but that promotion, it meant something. It meant stability. It meant finally breathing again. Jessica, my wife, she's a nurse, kind, calm, smarter than me. We met at a hospital billing seminar. She laughed at my Excel jokes. I knew I'd marry her before the lunch break ended. We'd been renting a small place off San Mateo for 5 years. It was fine, until the roof leaked. Then the plumbing backed up. Then the neighbors started fighting at 2 a.m. We were ready for more. We'd found a place near the foothills. 2 bedrooms, quiet street, a backyard for the dog we hadn't adopted yet. The promotion would have given us the loan approval, the vacation time, a chance to finally visit Colorado like we always dreamed. She never asked me to climb the ladder, never demanded I make more, but I wanted to give her more, because she gave me everything. That office Grant promised me, it wasn't just a title, it was a turning point, a door out of the grind. And when he slammed it shut in my face, he didn't just take away a job, he took away our future. And the worst part, he did it with a smile. Ever been on the edge of something better, only to have someone kick the ground out from under you? It happened on a Thursday, late afternoon. The sun hit the blinds just right, made his office glow like it was sacred or something. Grant Barlow, CEO, tailored suit, silver hair always perfect, smile like a politician. He called me in, closed the door, held out his hand. "You've earned it, Matthew. Quarter's wrapping up strong. Your promotion goes public next week." I shook his hand, felt it, felt like a milestone. Like all the late nights, skipped weekends, quiet sacrifices had finally stacked up to something real. "Take Jessica somewhere," he said. "You deserve it." I remember the exact words, the way he leaned back in that leather chair like he was proud of himself for rewarding loyalty. And I believed him. I told Jessica that night. We popped a bottle of cheap champagne. We stood on our tiny balcony talking about paint colors and dog names like the future was already happening. I'd never felt so sure of anything. That one moment, that handshake was supposed to be the start of a new chapter. Turns out, it was just the setup, because 5 days later, he called me back into that same office. No handshake, no eye contact, just a sentence that would burn into my ribs for months. We're restructuring, budget cuts, nothing personal. Ever had someone look you in the eye and lie without flinching? He didn't even say my name, just read from a paper, like it was a script his lawyer wrote the night before. We're making tough decisions, company-wide restructuring, budget constraints. It's not about performance, but it was. It always is. I sat there, still in the same tie I wore for that handshake 5 days earlier, still carrying the binder I'd prepped for the management meeting. He didn't even ask me to sit. And then, as I turned to leave, I saw him, Kyle, walking past the glass wall with a box in his hands. My box, my office, 24, fresh out of business school, still called Excel the spreadsheet thing, 2 months in the company. 2. He gave a sheepish smile like he knew, like even he couldn't believe it. I nodded back, didn't say a word. The message was clear. They didn't want capable, they wanted controllable. Grant didn't need someone who saw the numbers clearly. He needed someone who wouldn't question them. I walked back to my desk, started packing my things, plaques, USB drives, that leather jacket Jessica got me last birthday. Everyone avoided eye contact, like grief at a funeral. 8 years, boxed up in 15 minutes. Ever watch someone else walk into the life you built while you stood holding the door? The office was quiet, too quiet. Not even the usual hum of printers or keyboard taps, just silence and shame. No one said goodbye, no pats on the back, not even a fake "we'll miss you." It's strange how quickly you go from essential to invisible. I opened my bottom drawer, pulled out the framed photo of Jessica and me in Durango, back when we had time, and believed hard work meant something. My desk was clean in under 10 minutes. The last thing I grabbed was a Post-it note with a quote I'd written during a rough quarter. "Be the last one standing when the dust clears." Funny, right? I walked out slow, felt every step, like I was leaving a part of myself behind. As I reached the exit, I heard laughter echo from the conference room. Grant, telling some story about his golf swing. Like firing me had been just another bullet point on his to-do list. No guilt, no hesitation, just another Monday for him. I sat in my truck, box on the passenger seat, hands on the wheel, eyes locked on that glass building I once thought was my future. 8 years, reduced to a cardboard box and a quiet hallway. And in that silence, something started to shift inside me. This wasn't just a layoff. It was personal. Sometimes silence isn't peaceful. Sometimes it screams the truth no one wants to admit. Jessica knew the second I walked in. She didn't ask, didn't need to. Just set the spoon down, crossed the kitchen, and held me. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. I didn't cry, didn't scream, just nodded, and sat in silence while dinner went cold. That night, I laid in bed staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, too quiet. My mind wasn't. It kept spinning. Not with grief, not yet, but with questions. I couldn't stop thinking about last week's reports, the ones on Grant's desk that didn't match the ones I'd signed off on. Vendor invoices, equipment purchase orders, revenue numbers that felt off. At the time, I thought maybe it was a bulk discount or an internal adjustment. Grant always had an explanation. But now all I saw were red flags. The timing, the replacement, the way he didn't even blink while cutting me loose. It wasn't just restructuring, it was something else. And then I remembered a concrete delivery listed 3 times, but only one truck ever showed up. And those purchase orders I never saw cleared. Back then, I told myself it was just admin error. But now I saw what I'd ignored. Or worse, what I'd been made to ignore. Ever look back and realize the truth was right in front of you, but you were too loyal to see it? The next morning I made coffee, but it didn't taste like anything. It was just hot water pretending to matter. I sat at the kitchen table, my laptop open, fingers hovering over keys, trying to ignore the itch in my chest. But it wouldn't go away. The math never lies. And something wasn't adding up. I opened my notebook, flipped back through my handwritten notes, Scribbles from late nights, highlighted invoices, cost summaries I'd flagged but never questioned. I wasn't looking for proof. Not yet. I was looking for clarity. And it hit me. 3 separate suppliers had billed for the same materials, same date, same delivery ID, but we only received 1 load of concrete. That wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. I pulled up the purchase order spreadsheet I'd backed up, compared it with my old ledger from Q1. More anomalies. Steel shipments that never arrived. Equipment that was supposedly leased but had no service record, no pickup confirmation, no paper trail. For years, I'd been too buried in work to see it. But now I couldn't unsee it. Grant hadn't just fired me. He'd removed the only person who could spot the holes in his scheme. Kyle didn't stand a chance. Kid probably thought vendor reconciliation was a yoga pose. This wasn't about performance. This was about control. And Grant knew I couldn't be controlled. Sometimes the truth doesn't hit you all at once. It comes in pieces you've been holding the whole time. By noon, the decision was made. I opened my browser, typed 5 words I never thought I'd search: how to report tax fraud. The first link led to the IRS whistleblower hotline. I stared at the number, felt my finger hover, then pressed call. 20 minutes on hold. Terrible hold music. Plenty of time to doubt myself. But I didn't hang up. When someone finally answered, she transferred me to a fraud division agent, Patricia Reynolds. Her voice was firm, professional, like someone who'd heard 1,000 stories, but still listened to mine. I think my former employer is committing tax fraud, I said. She didn't gasp, didn't pause, just asked for details. I told her about the duplicate invoices, the phantom deliveries, the night I got fired, and the files I'd seen that didn't add up. She took notes, lots of them. When I paused, she said one thing: "This is helpful, but we'll need documentation." That word burned, because I didn't have access anymore. My company email deleted, shared drive locked down, physical files shredded probably. "I was let go yesterday," I said. "I can't get anything." She was quiet, then asked, "Could you find a way?" Not a threat, not pressure, just a door she left open. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. If Grant had erased my name from the building, I'd etch it into his downfall. There's something powerful about choosing justice even when you're the only one in the fight. I didn't plan to call Kyle, but that night, staring at my old login screen locked out, I realized something. Kyle had my access, my desk, my computer, maybe my files. So I texted him, "Hey man, hope the new role is treating you well. Quick favor, left some personal project files on the shared drive. Mind sending them over?" He replied in 5 minutes. "Sure thing. What should I look for?" I gave him the names of 3 harmless-sounding reports, ones I'd hidden breadcrumbs in: a vendor audit, an internal cost memo, a flagged purchase order list. An hour passed. Then the phone rang. "Matthew, this is weird. None of those files are there. Like, they don't exist anymore." My chest tightened, scrubbed. Yeah, like someone wiped your profile. I expected that. Grant wasn't sloppy. But then Kyle said something I didn't expect. "There's a new folder on the server called legacy_Q2_reorg. Password protected. Created yesterday right after you left." I froze. "What's in it?" "No clue. It's locked down hard, but it's big, over 300 MB. That folder didn't exist last week. And no one calls something legacy unless they're trying to bury it." "Kyle, listen. Don't open anything. Don't download anything. And if anyone asks you to sign something, call me first." "Wait, what's going on?" I wanted to tell him, but I couldn't. Not yet. The truth doesn't always get deleted. Sometimes it gets renamed and buried in plain sight. Carlos Vega used to be our lead contractor. Old school sharp eyes, hands like stone. Grant fired him 6 months ago. Said he was cutting corners, blamed him for a materials delay. But I remembered the call Carlos made after he got canned. Said something about false invoices, irregular payments. I hadn't listened back then. Too busy, too loyal. Now I listened. I found his number. Called at 7 a.m. "Carlos, it's Matthew Carter. I need to ask you something." Long pause. "You still work for Grant?" "Not anymore. He fired me too." Another pause. "Meet me at Rosario's, South 4th, 1 hour." The place was half empty. Carlos was in a booth, coffee already halfway gone. He looked up, nodded once. Let me guess, he gave your job to someone younger, cheaper, and dumber. I sat down. Told me it was budget cuts. Carlos snorted. Yeah, his budget's been cutting people who ask too many questions. I leaned in. Back then, when you said the invoices didn't match, you were right, weren't you? He looked me in the eye, dead serious. I kept everything. Invoices, delivery slips, PO mismatches. He made me hand over my copies, but I made copies of the copies. My heart kicked. You still have them. He smiled. Safe, secure, in a deposit box. And just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. Sometimes the people they throw away are the ones holding the matches. Carlos drove. Beat-up truck, cracked windshield, but he handled it like a race car. We pulled up to First National Bank. No drama, no words. Inside the vault smelled like dust and regret. Carlos opened the box. What he pulled out wasn't just paperwork. It was a fire starter. Dozens of invoices, side by side with real delivery receipts. Half the shipments never happened. POs signed by Grant. Numbers altered. Vendor names faked barely. All tied to Amberstone's biggest projects over 3 years. This is gold, I whispered. Carlos shook his head. It's theft. Organized. Long-term. And they thought no one would look. We sat in his truck, and I flipped through the pages. Timestamps, vendor names, matching red flags from my own ledgers. The puzzle pieces didn't just fit, they screamed. I pulled out Agent Reynolds' card. Dialed. She picked up. Her voice didn't flinch. I've got something, I said. Real documents. Witness testimony. She asked one question. Is he willing to come in? I looked at Carlos. He didn't blink. I'll talk. I've been quiet too long. I told her we'd be there by 3. That folder in my lap, it wasn't just paper. It was leverage. It was justice. It was my way back. Sometimes the nail in a liar's coffin comes from the guy they underestimated most. The IRS office in downtown Albuquerque looked exactly like you'd expect: gray walls, flickering fluorescence, and a coffee pot that smelled like 2007. Agent Patricia Reynolds met us in a windowless room. Suit sharp, eyes sharper. Carlos dropped the folder on the table. She flipped through it. Fast at first, then slower, then still. Every page turned, tightened her jaw. Invoices with no deliveries. Duplicate payments. Shell vendors. This isn't sloppy bookkeeping, she said. This is premeditated fraud. Carlos explained everything. Who signed what? When things stopped lining up. How Grant visited his house, threatened his livelihood just to keep him silent. Reynolds wrote it all down. This, she said, tapping the folder, is enough to open a federal case. My stomach twisted. Not fear, Clarity. She looked at me. We'll need your testimony, too. Anything you remember. Any pattern you can reconstruct from memory. I've got mental backups, I said. 3 years worth. She smiled for the first time. But understand, she continued, once this starts, there's no going back. There will be interviews, warrants, and eventually charges. I nodded. Grant wanted to erase me. Now my name was on the paperwork to end him. We walked out of the IRS building in silence. But something had shifted. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was accountability. Justice doesn't knock. It shows up with documents and a badge. It happened on a Tuesday. Jessica called me from her office downtown, voice shaking. Matthew, there are agents swarming the Amberstone building. FBI, IRS, local PD. It's a circus. I was already in my truck. Parked across the street 10 minutes later. Didn't go in. Just watched. Black SUVs. Boxes of files, hard drives, laptops. It was real. Every lie Grant had built, every corner he'd cut, every signature he forged was being carried out in bankers' boxes by agents with gloves. And then I saw him. Grant Barlow, cuffed, pale, speechless. That smug smirk gone. That perfect hair sweaty and matted. They walked him out like a crooked politician while employees watched in stunned silence. Kyle stood frozen in the parking lot, still clutching a half-empty coffee cup, his life about to change forever. My phone buzzed. Agent Reynolds. We found everything she said. Offshore transfers, emails, false vendor trails, more than 2 million laundered. I didn't speak. Matthew, you did the right thing. I exhaled for the first time in months. This wasn't just a takedown. It was a message. You don't get to step on people and expect silence forever. Some buildings fall from earthquakes. Others fall when the truth walks in through the front door. Amberstone went bankrupt within 6 months. The building sat empty, lights off, parking lot cracked with weeds. Every time I drove by, I saw more than just silence. I saw the truth finally given room to breathe. Grant got 6 years. 3 others got less. Kyle, he found a job downtown. He still texts me every now and then. Carlos opened his own firm. Small, honest, busy as hell. Me. I joined a nonprofit. Helps veterans find stable housing. It's not glamorous, doesn't pay much. But I sleep at night. Jessica and I finally took that Colorado trip. We hiked trails with no signal, slept under stars. And for the first time in years, we laughed without anything hanging over us. I didn't win millions, didn't get the title, but I got something better. My dignity, my clarity, my peace. And I'd trade every corporate thank you plaque for that. Because some promotions aren't about job titles. They're about choosing what kind of man you become when no one's watching. They fired me to erase me, but I found who I was, in the ashes they left behind. The trial took months. 2 times I testified. Carlos 3. Every time we spoke, the room went silent. Because the evidence didn't whisper, it roared. Grant sat there, stone-faced, tired suit, eyes empty. No Rolex, no arrogance, no backup plan. He looked exactly like what he'd always been, a man hiding behind paper and charm. The judge called it systematic abuse of trust. The verdict guilty on every count. Restitution ordered. Assets seized. And the empire he built on fraud, fear, and lies crumbled in front of him. That was the moment. Not when the cuffs clicked, not when the building emptied, but when the court clerk read the sentence and I looked at Jessica in the back row and she smiled. Because it was over. We didn't just survive, we exposed. We didn't just lose a job, we brought down a criminal network. And if you've ever been lied to, used, underestimated, you know exactly what that moment means. Justice doesn't always wear a cape. Sometimes it wears a witness badge and a heart that refused to stay silent. If this story hit you in the gut, don't just scroll. Subscribe, because more stories like this are waiting to be told. And who knows, the next one might be yours. He fired me to shut me up, but I spoke louder with the truth.